the one, the only, Ben Sion.
Good afternoon and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube Just Dafit as we continue with Maseches Gittin Daf Samach Beis, number 62. More than two-thirds of the way through Maseches Gittin. We're finishing the fifth parak, Parak Anizakin today. We'll be starting the sixth parak. Very exciting. We'll get back to the halachas of Gittin in the sixth parak. Let's finish the fifth parak. We'll start the third line, Samach Beis Amid Aleph, the last word. Hey, Rabbi Yossi ben HaMeshulam, Mishum Rabbi Yochanan Echav. Meshulam gave testimony in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, his brother. Shamar Mishum Elazar ben Chasma. I said the name of Elazar ben Chasma. In Osin Chalas Ama Ars Betara, but Osin Isas Chulav Betara. We talked yesterday about what an Amaretz is. Two different opinions what an Amaretz is. People that are not careful about Tumah and Tara, they're not careful about Shumas and Maestros. So you're not supposed to help them if you're a chaver, someone who cares about these things, Tumah and Tara. You care about Trumas and Maishos, very medactic in Trumas and Maishos, even nowadays when it's questionable. It's definitely the Rabbanan in Trumas and Maishos nowadays. And also in Chalas Amar B'Tara. The Chala, right? If he separated, Amar separated Chala, it's probably Tameh, right? He's Tameh. Amar or Muchzak, we assume they're Tameh. And once Chala becomes Tameh, you can't be eaten by Kohanim anymore. So you can't help him with that. Aval Osin Isas Chulav B'Tara. However, if he has chulin, right, you're allowed to deal with that because chulin, it became tamei. Even though the tashlam arz, it became tamei. There's nothing wrong technically with chulin that's tamei. Maybe it doesn't mean the rabbanon yesterday to eat it, but technically it's really a chumrah. You could work with them, and you take his dough and you take challah from it as the chaver. You put it in some leather pouch, old leather pouch, something which is not a kli anymore. It's basically pieces of leather that are patched together. It's not considered a kli, so therefore, it's not makabel. It's not makabel tuma. So even if the Amars had touched it, it would not make the challah that you took off tameh. He's going to come the Amars to take back his isa, his dough, and the challah that he took off. You let him take it. He's going to give the challah to the kohen. We don't worry. We'll see. We're not worried because, first of all, people did this for parnasa. People that were more frum, that kept the halachas of a chaver, they did this for parnasa. And second of all, it's in a kli which is not mekabel tuma, so we're not worried he's going to touch it. Similarly, ve'ein osin truma zesa betara. Take off truma, right? If he has olives and he took off truma with it, you should not touch it, even though he says tar. It's probably not tar. However, his olives, which are chulin, and he claims are tar, they're probably tamei. He can separate the truma, the chaver. When you create the truma, he's the one touching. He's tar, but he's the chaver. And he puts it in the kelim that belongs to the chaver, meaning it's something which is not makabel tuma. It's strange. You can take both the zaysim, the chulin, and the truma. You're not worried. But time of mind, what's the reason the Rabbanan allowed this? We're not worried that he's going to be matamei it when he takes it. Amar Rabbi Yochanan mishum k'dei chayav. The gaval mishum k'dei chayav the badad. This was a parnasa. Mashkichim. You talk from people. A lot of the jobs are getting mashkichim. So they hired from people to make sure to get a hechsher. You want a hechsher for your truma, a hechsher for your challah. So therefore, they hired people that are more from. And their parnasa was to take off challah and to take off truma. So they allowed these things, even though there's a concern he might be matame. If they allow this for the parnasa of the gaval, the person who needs the dough, and the person who separates the truma of the olives, he plucks the olives off the tree. V'sricha, you need both cases. The yashmin and gaval, the person who works with the dough, mishum d'lo nafesh agre. It's kind of a common job. You don't get paid that much. Abad the nafesh agre, person who plucks up, you have to be talented to take off the olives off the trees. Nafesh agre, he gets paid a lot. Amolo. Since he gets paid a lot, he doesn't need this dispensation. He can make his parnasa from a different work. V'yashmina badad. It's not just badad. Mishum d'lo shchiach. It's hard to get a job as a badad. Aval gabal the shchiach. A lot of people deal with dough, so it's a very common job. Maybe you don't need this dispensation of amolo. Sricha. That's why both cases are taught in the Brisa. Or Amar, the Brisa said, "No telemana k'dei chala menicha b'kfisha b'anchusa k'shabam art lito no tel shtein. You can take his vein choshesh. V'leichash demanagaba. So what? You put it in a kli that's right now makabel tuma. He touches it. It's not going to makabel tuma. It's not going to matame what's inside of it. Maybe he actually touched what was inside of it. Now, what do we say to him? Chazi nagat b'hadra tivla. We tell him, if you actually touch the challah or the truma, it's going to become tevel again. The rest of it will become usher for you to eat. People were careful not to eat tevel. He's not careful with tuma and tower. He's not careful with shmunas ha'maishos. Maybe he won't care that you told him it's tevel. He hired you to take off his challah b'truma, to get a hechsher, a stamp. The challah was taken off the tower, the truma was taken off the tower. So if you tell him things, he's gonna worry. Amar Mar, the Bryce said, "No telemana k'dei truma v'nicha b'kelev shel chaver. Shba Mar tlito no tel shtein. Ve'eno choshesh. We're not worried. V'leichash dilma nagaba. Maybe he'll touch it. B'shlama hasam. In the first case, it's lehekira, right? You put it in kalim, which are basically made from leather pieces, strung together, glued together. It's not a normal type of casing, so he's gonna recognize it's different. Maybe I shouldn't touch this. Hacha ma hekera. He put it in the kalim of the chaver. What hekera is there? The manachle b'kli galalim kli avanim kli adam. He puts it in. Actually, does put it in special kalim. He puts it in kalim namakabel tuma. Either they're made out of dung, or they're made out of stones, or they're made out of dirt, which are all namakabel tuma. Ihachi ma yere the chaver. Why does it have to belong to the chaver? These kalim. I feel dam aretz dami. Why can't you use his kalim? Hachanami ka'amar. That's really what it meant to say. But kalim shalom aretz haruil nishtamish bein chaver. It doesn't mean the actual kalim with the chaver. He's just getting paid to take off truma and take off challah. You put it in the kalim nama aretz that a chaver would use. You use which kalim amaretz of an amaretz mechaber use those things that are not makabel tuma, like things made out of dung or stone or earthenware. The Mishnah says, last Mishnah says that you could strengthen the hands of a non-Jew during Shvius. Again, right, land that belongs to a non-Jew in Eretz Yisrael is not chayav in Shemitah. Machzikin, the Gemara says, Amar Rav Dimi bar Shishna mishmei the Rav ain't odrin ma'akum b'Shvius. If he's hoeing during Shvius, you can't help him, right? Technically, the land belongs to the non-Jew. You're not supposed to get involved in malacha during Shavuos, even though it's not your land. Ve'ein koflin shalom. These are obviously they're rabbanon, because since it belongs to a non-Jew, it's not working land of Shemitah, but they're rabbanon. Ve'ein koflin shalom. You're not supposed to say hello twice to a non-Jew. Hello. We'll talk about this in a second. Lo sricha. What we mean to say, it's not that you're helping them do the work. It means that you say, be strong, do a good job. You're doing a good job. All right, be strong. Rav Yehuda did say this to people working in the Shemitah land. Be strong. Rav Hishda, he says, you did a good job. You're doing a good job. He would make sure to give shalom first to a non-Jew. Rav Kahana Amalei Shalom Lamar. He would say shalom to a mister. Now, why is the Gemara mentioning this? It's important to say it first, or to say shalom mister. I'll tell you my explanation in Iyad Ben Sion. I'll strengthen the question in a second. V'sholin b'shloman, you're allowed to. The Mishnah says you're allowed to ask them how they're doing. Hashta achzuke machzakina. The Mishnah says that we can tell them, encourage them to do work. Sholin b'shloman b'bay. Of course, you can say hello. Amar Rav Yeba. Lo nitzrocha el yom chag. The Mishnah is talking about on their holiday. The sanya lo yikana tell them lebeis shal b'kuchav miyom chago, and it's his holiday. It's Christmas. V'yitin lo shal. Don't go into his house and say shalom matzah b'shuk. If you find him on Christmas in the marketplace, no sin lo b'safa rapo b'kol rosh. You can say hello, even greet him, but it has to be with your head a little bit down and a lowered voice. Rav Huna, and that's the Chiddush of the Mishnah, you're allowed to even ask their shalom b'shlomo, you're allowed to greet them on their holiday. Rav Huna, Rav Chisda, Rav Huna and Rav Chisda were sitting down. Chalif Azal Geniva. Geniva was a rabbinical scholar who was a little bit vociferous. He argued on the rabbis, didn't believe in Das Torah. One said, let's get up for Geniva. Geniva wasn't a Rav Geniva. He was just a smart guy who knew the Talmud like me. He spoke out against Das Torah. He's someone who's a rabbinical scholar. We're not going to get up for someone who causes machlokes, who fights the censorship of Das Torah. Ataki asa uyu legabayu. In the meantime, he came to them. Amarhu shalma alaychu malchi. He was courteous, Geniva. He was a nice person. He said, Shalom to you, the kings. Shalom alaykum malchi. He repeated it. They were obviously impressed. You know, you're calling us kings. How do you know we're called kings? Hashem says in Mishlei, through me, through the Torah, people who are knowledgeable in the Torah will become kings. How do you know you repeat it to a melech? Repeat it. Amasai was the general, and he goes on. The pasuk goes on to say, he said shalom to David twice. David was a melech. Amri lay, they said to him, little mar midi. And they kind of felt bad, you know. They treated it, they wouldn't get up for him, but he calls them malachim, calls them kings. Have something to eat. We'll give you some food. Amar luhachi amar Rav Yudah Rav. I can't eat yet. I have to give my animal first. Pasuk in Kriyat Shema, right? You give first fodder to your animal. The next pasuk says, then you eat and you're satisfied. We finished the 5th parak. Congratulations. And the question that persists over here is that, even the article points it out, also we had the Gemara by the Chorban, where Yochanan ben Zakkai greeted Vespasian. He said shalom twice because he was the king. So you see that whether it's a Jewish king or non-Jewish king, we do repeat shalom. But the Gemara said before that we don't repeat shalom to a non-Jew. We don't repeat it to a non-Jew, implying what? That by a Jew, a regular commoner, Jewish commoner, you would reply shalom. You could say it twice. So which one is it? By a regular Jew, can you repeat it or not repeat it? Right? From Malachim, it seems you're supposed to repeat it. A regular person, you don't have to. A non-Jewish person, you can't repeat it. But it's mashma that a regular Jew, you could repeat it. So what's the halacha by a regular Jew? Could you repeat shalom or not? I'll tell you my personal take on this, based on life experience. I mean, it's pretty obvious what I'm going to say, but most people probably have thought about this, but haven't been able to articulate it. I'll tell you my opinion, even with Ben Sio in the last year on Nizakin. Let's start the next parak. Parak HaOmer. Samach Beis Beis. Omer iskabel gedzel ishti. He says to a shliach. We're talking about shlichus over here. He appoints a shliach. Take his kabel, accept this get. He is not right. Leishti, accept it and take it to my wife and give it to her. Oh, holech. Or he says a different word. Holech. Bring this get to my wife. Imrata lachzor yachzor. Before it gets to his wife, he can retract his shlichus, because the get is only effective once it's nasan biyada, once it gets into her hands. A woman, she appoints a shliach. She can appoint a shliach to Kabbalah. Imrata lachzor yachzor. Once the shliach is makabel it, the man cannot retract anymore. Lefichach, therefore, im amr lo abal yev shish the Kabbalah. She appoints a shliach, and the man knows this is a shliach for the Kabbalah. He says, I don't want to give it to you as a shliach for Kabbalah. Ella holech v'tein la. So I'm appointing you as a shliach to give it to her. Instead, imrat alachzor yachzor. He has been right. He is megarish the wife bal korcha. He can do whatever he wants. So therefore, he can nullify her shliach and make the shliach halacha and say, until it gets to the woman's actual hands, then it's not going to be getting. Therefore, if he retracts before it gets to her hands, he could. Rosh Omer afa omeres toli giti. Even if the woman would say to the shliach lekabbalah, tol, meaning take from me the get, imrat alachzor liyachzor, once that's a valid shliach lekabbalah according to Shemuel, and therefore once the shliach lekabbalah gets the get, the man can no longer retract. The Gemara says, "Amalei Rav Acha b'rei Rav Avia Rav Ashi, timely lo shavisa I shliach lekabbalah." Right. The reason for the ruling in our Mishnah is because she didn't make him a shliach. Right, his kabel get leishti. It's not the woman speaking; it's the man speaking. Accept the get from my wife. But if hashavisa ish shliach kabbalah, if both the man and the woman are the same person, right? He says his kabel and she says his kabel. You give him a kabel for, right? Hashavisa ish shliach kabbalah ratza lachzor liyasar, right? Then it would work right away. He can't go back once it gets into shliach's hand. It affects the gerusha. Shma mina holich gezachidam, and therefore. Right, our Mishnah says two cases, skabel and holech, which seemingly pretty much mean the same things. Therefore, when I say holech, it doesn't mean walk it, and when you give it to her, then it's a get. It means holech, acquired on her behalf. So once she gets it, even through she's Meshav, she makes this person a Shtil Kabbalah. It's like Zachidam. It's a machlokes early in the Gemara. The Gemara was Maskana, was it holik? It's not Kazachidam. As Gemara says in the rejects, it's not like I'm telling the person to acquire it on her behalf. It's Tzrichale. Both two cases in the Mishnah, Hiskabel and Holich, both were necessary to teach me. Why? Normally, the husband can make a shliach halacha to bring the wife to a get. He can't make a shliach to accept the get from him. When he said the lashon on hiskabel, he really meant to say bring it. Hiskabel, it shouldn't be a good get. He's saying take it and bring it there. That's what he meant to say. He just didn't add the word hiskabel, take it, accept it, and bring it there. The woman who said, the continuation of the Mishnah, she said hiskabel giti. Once the shliach kabbalah accepts it on behalf of the woman, the man can no longer retract. My lav loshna kabbalah loshna halacha. Doesn't that mean, right? Whether in both cases in the Mishnah, when he said whether he said the man said he's kabel, or the man said, holich, right? So in both cases, right? When a woman says his kabel, meaning she's saying to the person who the husband said, right, the husband said kabbalah, right? The case of holich is not related. Holich means bring the get to my wife, but the woman who says his kabel, she's saying to the same person the man said his kabel to, right? So kabbalah is going on both cases. The case of halacha, where the man says bring it, or a kabbalah where the man says to a man to be miskabel, and the woman says that same man, you be the kabbalah. So you see what? It works, right? Holich is gizachidam, lo. The Gemara says no. The Gemara rejects it. Lo a kabbalah. Talking about the case of kabbalah. If he says kabel, and she also said the same person is kabel, the get is affected because he used the lashon kabbalah. But when you use the her holich, it means I don't want the get to be effective until it gets to her hand, not take it and acquire it on her behalf. Until it gets to her hand, he wants to make sure it gets to her hands. Tashma, if the husband were to say, I don't want this shliach to be a kabbalah for her, he changes it. He changes the shliach to kabbalah to shliach halacha. He can retract before it gets to her hands. Because he says, I don't want you to be a shliach kabbalah. Halo amar yafshi. If he didn't say yafshi, he can't retract. Shma min aholich kazachi dami. So you see what? Both the case of Iskabel and a holich, right, it's going in both cases, presumably, right? Nonetheless, the husband can't be makzir unless he explicitly changes the shliach kabbalah to a shliach halacha. It doesn't work. So therefore, if he appointed a shliach kabbalah and she also appointed that person to be a shliach kabbalah for her, holich could be kazachidam. It would take effect immediately. So the Gemara says, no, dilma behelach. Maybe the case of his kabel, of holich doesn't really mean holich. It means halach, meaning here it is. He said halach and to a shliach, and she said the same shliach in makabel. So therefore, halach could be like zachi. Halach, take it. It's like whenever the get could take effect, just take effect. But holich, which is we paskin, when I say walk it to her, make sure the person has to actually walk it to her. I don't mean that the shliach should be mezakeh, it should acquire it on her behalf right away. The Gemara says pshita. The Gemara is going to discuss a new issue. Pshita, ish have shliach halacha. A man can be a shliach for the husband to bring the get to his wife. Shekain baal molik el ishto, right? The baal is a man. He's bringing the get to his wife, so he can appoint someone like him, a man. Ish have shliach kabbalah. A woman can be a shliach kabbalah. Shekain isha kabbalah skita miyad baila. The woman is in charge of accepting the get, so she can appoint someone in her stead to accept the get, like a woman. Ish the kabbalah, ish halacha lamai. What's the opposite? Can a man appoint a woman as shliach halacha, and a woman appoint a man as shliach kabbalah? Tashma. The Mishnah says, Omer is kabbalah gel zel ishti, ahola gel zel ishti, imrat alachzor yachzor. Before it gets to her, he can be chozer. Ha'isha amra. The woman that said, his kabbalah legiti, The woman said, "Hiskabel Gittin." Imrata lachzor liyachzor. And the woman said, accept the get on my behalf. And once the shliach accepts the get, he can no longer retract. My lav b'chad shliach. Aren't we talking about one shliach? Meaning the person said hiskabel, accepted, and the woman also said to that same person, mikabel. However, you could be both a shliach lekabal shliach halacha. So, right, and since a woman could be a shliach lekabala and a man could be a shliach halacha, so whether it's a woman or a man, they can do both jobs. The Gemara says lo b'shnei shluchin. It's talking about two different shluchin. It's not talking about the man said iskabel, but not to the woman, the person the woman said iskabel to. Two different people, and maybe the man said a man and the woman sent a woman. So you can't bring a proof from up here. Tashma, we'll try to bring proof from further on the mission. He nullifies her shlichus. Give it to her, he says. Before it gets to her hands, he can retract. Right here, it's definitely only one shliach. She sent the shliach kabbalah. He reverses it. He says, you're not going to be a shliach kabbalah anymore. You're going to be a shliach halacha. So the woman, right? Whoever, if you could be a shliach halacha, you could be a shliach kabbalah, or vice versa. So the Gemara says, "Pshot mina." Maybe you can only answer one of the questions. If isha is shliach kabbalah, sheken am mekabel get lebito. Maybe the case is, right, that it's talking about a man, right? The man can work for the woman to be makabel her get, and therefore she sent a man, and he went ahead and sent the man back. And why would we say that's easier to prove? Right? A man can marry his daughter off, which is a ktana, at the beginning of Masechus Kedushin, under the age of 12. And if they get divorced on the age of 12, the father is the one in charge of accepting the get for his daughter. So you see, a man can work as the Kabbalah. So nonetheless, you can still have a question whether a woman could bring a get on behalf of a man. Amar of Mari Tashma. Let's bring a proof from earlier in the Masechta, a Mishnah. There are certain 5 women that hate other women, and therefore are worried they're going to lie about the other woman. They can't say Meis Baila, your husband died. They're worried they're lying and they just want to ruin her life. These 5 women can bring a get. Now we're talking about a woman over there, and there is talking about the halacha, right? You're coming from Dinas Hayam, the beginning of the Masechta, and you're staying funny nechta. And they're bringing the get, shliach halacha. Amar Rav Ashi, the Gemara says it's indeed a proof, and Rav Ashi supports it. From the end of that Mishnah, you can also bring Tani Seifa, Isha Atzma V'yas Agita. The woman herself, who's getting divorced, she's getting divorced. They want to get divorced in Eretz Yisrael to take it effect in Eretz Yisrael. She could bring her get from Medinas Hayam. We're talking about she's bringing it from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael, or from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael. She's bringing her own get. So you see, a woman can act as shliach halacha. Shema mina, a woman can act as shliach halacha. And also we see, before, a man can act as shliach kabbalah. We'll stop over here. We'll talk more about this tomorrow. Stay tuned for Re'iyut Ben Sion, where I talk about saying hi twice, greeting people, something people take for granted, unfortunately. When I grew up, the community I come from, the norm is when you see somebody you know or you're familiar with to say hello to them. Unfortunately, in the community I live with over here, it's become the norm, actually. People that you recognize or are friendly with, you don't always say hi. People just walk by each other in the street. I have brother-in-laws that walk by me, and one brother-in-law in particular, who walks by and doesn't say anything, He's a brother-in-law, I'm in a fight with him over this. He refuses to apologize. Whatever. I'm not in this fight, but anyway, it's quite common for people that know you over here to just walk by and not say anything. We'll talk about saying Shalom Aleichem in Ian with Ben Sion coming up next.